Scott, good morning, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing
Scott.
good. We're following every single nugget that is the Philadelphia Phillies and their off-season right now. So I'm curious. I want to start off with this. Do you believe Dave Dombrowski will move on from over-under 3.5 position players from the everyday lineup last year with the Phillies?
Wow, that's a good number. That's a good over/under 3.5. I would say over, because I think Nick Castellanos is good as gone. He's basically, Dombrowski has basically said that when he said that he talked with them after the season, and kind of the message was a change of scenery is good for everyone. So right away, that's one off your list. They're not going to bring back, I don't think, all three of Schwarber, Realmuto, Bader. So that's probably another one off the list. I mean, do you count Max Kepler because he's not coming back? Do you count, so that's three. So, yeah, I think you're right. You're right on that number, and it's probably going to be right around that number if you're talking about regular players or everyday guys. So that's probably what you're looking at. I would say over, but, I could see it coming in right around 3 as well.
Scott, I've spent too much time this offseason already looking at how older rosters and how old this roster could look if they decide to lock down Schwarber to a long-term deal. It looks like there's an impending cliff of just age, money, and over-the-hill guys. And the Phillies seem like, at least if I go by Dave Dombrowski's comments, that they really want to do it and they embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do, right, is look back about 15 years or 10 years to the, what happened to the 08-09 crew and how it sort of a step back every year in the playoffs and then off the cliff in 2012 or after 2012. So, you don't have to look that far.
Correct.
To sort of see what happens. So, no, I mean, look, you're right. And, look, I think that they're going to tell you, no matter what they do in the offseason, they're going to tell you that the age thing is going to be mitigated by the fact that Justin Crawford's going to be here next year as an everyday guy, and he's 20, he'll be 22 by opening day. I'll point to Andrew Painter, who's going to be in the rotation at age 22 if he's on the opening day roster, and I think he will be. So they're going to tell you that, finally, this is the year where internally they're getting younger, and so even if they bring back Schwarber and if they bring back Realmuto, guys who are 34 and 35, they're going to tell you that that's offset by the fact that they've got Crawford, they've got Painter, Aiden Miller is on the way. So that's how they're going to sort of position it. And there's some validity to that. But, no, you're right. I mean, you're right that they're not getting any younger. And if they were to add another free agent in his 30s, that's not going to help either. So they are getting a little older. But, look, that was going to happen with this group because of how many of them are signed to long-term contracts.
Scott, when it comes to Kyle Schwarber, I mean, I say it. I'm signing him no matter what. John doesn't want to go past, 4 years is the number that John doesn't want to go past? 4 would be the longest I would go.
Do
you believe that the Phillies desperately need Kyle Schwarber back, or could you see a world in which they go, you know what, we're not going to reach the money, even though we've been telling you all along that we will be, and we'll move on and we'll try to find a replacement for Schwarber or replacements?
Well, I'll answer that by saying this. So me personally, if I was running the front office, no, I don't think that they should be desperate. I don't think that it's like Kyle Schwarber or bust. I think that there are ways that they could go in the off season that don't involve Kyle Schwarber and still be a really good team next year. Like, you could make an argument that a guy like Alex Bregman might be a better fit for this roster, or a guy like Cody Bellinger, who plays the outfield and first base at an elite level. Bats left-handed, might not hit 50 homers, but he'll hit 30, and gives you more flexibility in the DH spot than you would have if you bring back Kyle Schwarber. So, no, I don't think it's a must-have, but I do think that they're going to bring him back, and I do think that there's a real argument for bringing him back because of, number one, the production that you get. Number two, the leadership component in the clubhouse. I don't think that can be overstated. I think he's really, kind of the glue that holds the whole thing together. And so from that standpoint, I think, that's part of the cost for a player like Kyle Schwarber, and I think it's a unique cost. I think they're going to bring him back. I still do. I mean, the people that I talk to seem to think that as well, both inside and outside the organization. Now, that's not to say that another team might not step up and get crazy, right? I mean, maybe the Red Sox decide that Schwarber's their guy more so than Pete Alonso or even Bregman, and they offer up a fifth year, and now you've got a stretch to go somewhere where it's really uncomfortable to go. That could happen, but, I mean, I think that ultimately he likes it here. Look, I saw the report, just as you guys did, that the Pirates are looking to spend this offseason a little bit more than usual. And
what, 10 cents more?
Well, look, I mean, they should, because they have Paul Skeens, right? So you've got to either trade Paul Skeens or try to win while you have him. But if I'm Kyle Schwarber, right, and I've made the playoffs 10 of my 11 years in my career, odds are I'm not going there with the Pirates. And so I think that, I was talking to Joe Madden last week for our podcast, and Joe Madden knows Kyle Schwarber very well from their time in Chicago, and he said, look, I'm not going to tell you that he's going to give anybody a discount, but, I've never gotten the sense that Schwarber's a guy who's going to hold out for the last dollar to go just anywhere. He likes it here. He's comfortable here. His family likes it here. I do think he wants to come back on a fair offer, and I think ultimately there's going to be a fair offer for him to come back here.
It's interesting when I hear, I monitor fan sites or blog sites and everything, and they're proposing trades, and they're saying, well, the Phillies should trade Marsh and Bohm and Castellanos and put a package together. And I'm like, what do people think the market value is for the guys that they've got? Because I look at the guys that they potentially could trade, and I don't see that there's going to be much of a return available unless you're looking to restock minor leagues.
I think you're right about that. I think Brandon Marsh probably still has some value to people around the league. I don't think, obviously like Castellanos. See, the Castellanos thing makes me scratch my head because the other night the Orioles make a trade. They trade Grayson Rodriguez to get Taylor Ward. Now, on paper, that looks like a lopsided trade. Grayson Rodriguez is 26 years old. He's got 4 years of control. I know he missed all of this year with an elbow injury, but he's a young, controllable pitcher. And you're getting back Taylor Ward, who hits a lot of home runs, but he strikes out a lot. He's 32. He's going into his walk year. Those don't look like equal assets, right? I thought Alec Bohm for Taylor Ward was a deal that made sense, both for the Angels and for the Phillies. The players lined up in terms of money, in terms of control. But I think what you saw in that trade is how much teams are valuing outfield, right? Like, there's just not a whole lot out there right now to get, either in free agency or in a trade, if you need outfield help. And so Taylor Ward got the Angels a controllable young pitcher. So, if the Phillies are out there talking about, we'll trade Alec Bohm, you have to ask yourself how much you're going to get. And, look, I think that the Taylor Ward trade does actually bode well for the Castellanos market, because there's got to be some team out there that would say, hey, you pay all $20 million, we'll take Nick Castellanos. A free Nick Castellanos might hit us 20 home runs. He might help us in the outfield. But based on what I hear and, in talking to people, it just doesn't sound like there's been a whole lot of traction on a Castellanos trade for the Phillies, even if they pick up all the money, even with the outfield shortage around baseball. So that one kind of makes me scratch my head, because I have a hard time thinking that they're not going to get something, even if it's a B or C level prospect for Nick Castellanos.
All right, last thing for you, Scott. We appreciate the time as always. You don't also have to just sign for players. You can trade for players, and you were just mentioning trading away Nick Castellanos. Is the names that keep on popping up, a Buxton, a Joe Adell, and then pick your catcher, because if they do not re-sign JT Realmuto, I imagine they don't go into the year saying Rafael Marchand's our guy. So what's the more likely name to hear, a Buxton, an Adell, or like an Adley Rutschman behind the dish?
Well, I think Adell probably comes off the board now that Ward has been traded out of Anaheim. I don't think that they're going to move on from both Ward and Adell. That leaves them short in the outfield. So I'd probably cross him off. I mean, I could be wrong. They could decide, to just redo the outfield completely there. But I think Joe Adell is probably back. Buxton's the one I keep looking at and calling people about, because to me that's, there are not many players that fit the Phillies' needs better than Byron Buxton. I know there are injury concerns there, but he's in the prime of his career. He is ultra productive when he plays. He is a center fielder. They've needed a center fielder for like 10 years.
They should have Joel Embiid pick him up at the airport if they go and make this deal. Honestly, he plays 95 games a year. They can't do this.
Yeah, no, I know that. I know that, and that's the concern with him. But look at what he does in a year like last year where he's healthy, and maybe look, the Phillies. I will tell you this: the Phillies trust their training staff. They have done a good job for the most part, the last 3-4 years of keeping their players healthy relative to the rest of the league. So I don't know. Maybe they think that they can keep them healthy. The thing I'm watching with the Twins is what do they do with Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez? Because Byron Buxton has a no-trade clause that he said last year at the All-Star game he is not going to waive. He said, I'm a Minnesota Twin for life. Those are his words. Now, if they trade Joe Ryan or if they trade Pablo Lopez, one of their two top pitchers, that's a sign that the Twins are, in fact, just totally rebuilding, totally reloading, even more so than what they did at the deadline where they traded away 10 guys. So I think if they trade one or both of those pitchers, Buxton could say, you know what, this Twin for life thing, that was good when I thought we were trying, not when I thought we were rebuilding. I think he would waive his no trade if they trade one of those two pitchers, or certainly both. So I'm watching Buxton closely because I'm watching the Twins to see exactly what they do. Right now they're signaling that they're going to try to compete with that pitching and try to build around it. If that happens, I don't think he's going anywhere. If they do trade a pitcher, I do think he would consider moving. So he's the one I'm watching. I do agree with you about the catcher situation. I think if JT doesn't come back, it's a trade for a catcher. I don't know who that's going to be. Right. I don't think it's going to be Adley Rutschman. I don't think he's moving. But, there are some teams out there. I've thought about reverse engineering the Haffey trade, right? Like, there are some teams out there that have a young catcher who's ready for the big leagues, who's blocked. Seattle's got Harry Ford. Yep. There are others. So I'm watching that closely, but, I do think that their priority is still to bring back Real Muto and go from there.
All right, Scott. Listen, man, we appreciate the time
Scott.
as always. Great work
for
the Inquirer. Yeah. Well, no, that offseason with this Phillies team. And Phillies Extra, the podcast is tremendous. Keep up the great work, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much for checking out our content here on our YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe, and that way you're never going to miss anything that we've got going on right here at 97.5 The Fanatic.